Welcome to Leaving Nothing to Chance, your go-to podcast where we bring you insights from some of the most influential voices in small business and personal development. Each week, we dive deep into conversations with top thought leaders, authors, and business moguls from around the world, sharing their secrets to success and strategies for growth. Tune in for exclusive content that will inspire, motivate, and equip you to take your journey to the next level. This is Leaving Nothing to Chance.
Well, hello, everybody. This is something new that we're incorporating in 2025, and that's our author series. And our author series is going to start out with Dennis Henson and a terrific book. Now, some of you have heard our long form interview already on Real Impact. This is a terrific, terrific book. I couldn't put it down, Dennis. I lent it to my wife. She couldn't put it down. And I've referred it now to my friend Chris Champion, who you met. He couldn't put it down. So when they can't put it down, you've obviously done a great job. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. I'm glad you like it.
And you know, Dennis, what we're going to do here, what you and I discussed, but just for our listenership, so that you guys know what we're doing, because this is new, is we're going to be meeting with Dennis. We're going to also be meeting with other authors over the next couple of years as books come out and come into the marketplace, where we're going to identify 1, 2, 3, 4, or even maybe more chapters of their book and talk about each chapter specifically. So, Dennis, you're the first. You're the guinea pig. Congratulations.
Well, good.
But this was also your idea, so and a good one, by the way. I think we'll find out. So anyway, so Dennis, first things first. We're going to talk about the great Sylvester Stallone, and you know, Sly Stallone has been everything from a writer, an actor, a director, a producer. I mean, you name it in Hollywood, there's not a lot the guy hasn't done. But like yourself and myself, he's got an affinity and a love of writing. I mean, that's really his first love. And you put together a chapter here on Sly Stallone's life and the evolution of the Rocky franchise. And you did a terrific job with it. But let's talk about that a little bit. The Rocky start that Rocky Balboa, Sylvester Stallone had to get this thing that we all now take for granted. There's no place in the world you refer to Rocky and they don't know what you're talking about, right? Well, it wasn't always that way for Sly Stallone. So why don't we talk about the early days of what happened with him?
Sly was, he had some problems. You know, he had some physical problems. He had an injury when he was born, and he had a defect. His speech was slurred, and he wanted to be an actor. Now, this is where getting your mind right comes in. He knew what he wanted, and he was determined to get it. Even with all of his setbacks, he still had his eye on a prize, which is a big, that's a big thing in the book. You know, desire is a big thing. Unfortunately, was not becoming very successful. He tried acting, he'd been in a couple of movies and they bombed, and he was not in demand, and he wasn't making any money. In fact, he was so broke that he was living in a bus station, and he was showering in the YMCA. He had a car, but he didn't have any gas. And he had a dog. He loved his dog. I mean, I know how that feels because I love my dog too. I just, you know, my dog is just part of my family. But he couldn't feed the dog. He was so poor, he didn't have enough money to feed the dog. So in spite of it breaking his heart, he decided to sell the dog so the dog would have food. He sold his dog so that the dog would have something to eat. That's how poor he was. That was the start. How much further you want me to go with that, though? That's a pretty rocky start.
Well, you know, and you do a great job telling the story in Real Impact. Him living in a bus shelter in Los Angeles. He's from the Philadelphia area. originally. So I don't know if he took a bus out there or he drove out there. He got there somehow, obviously, but had to literally live in a bus shelter while he was shopping the Rocky script that he had written and was trying to also act in. So talk about perseverance for a minute, because okay, obviously to live in a bus shelter, shower at the YMCA, I mean that takes a special individual to begin with.
He saw a movie, well, not a movie. He was probably in a bar and he saw a fight between Muhammad Ali and the Bayonne Bruiser. Now, no one had ever heard of the Bayonne Bruiser, and no one expected him to stay in the ring with Ali for a single round. But the Bruiser stayed in the ring with him for 15 rounds and knocked him down. That impressed Stallone so much that he went home, took a pen and pencil, and he wrote for 3 days. He didn't sleep. He wrote for 3 days, put together a script. So on a day or two later, he went for an interview. He interviewed for the part. The part wasn't for him. He knew he wasn't going to get it, and he hit the door. But right before he hit the door, he said, "Wait a minute, there's producers here." So he went back and found the producers and said, "Hey guys, I've written a script. I think it's really good." To get rid of him, they said, "Oh, okay, good. Bring it by and we'll look at it." And he left, and they never expected to see him again. But the next day he showed up with his script. And they read it and they fell in love with it. They said, "Oh, man, this is a great script." And they offered him $350,000 for the script. He said, "Okay, I'll sell this to you, but I want to be the star." And they said, "Oh, no, we want Ryan O'Neal, or we want a big star to star in this movie. We're not going to consider you." And so Rocky had to make Sylvester had to make a choice. If I say no, I'm going to go back to the bus station, with no food. And it was a hard choice. But he said, no, if I'm not going to be the star, because he thought, if I don't get to be the star and the movie takes off, it's going to kill me because I want to be a movie star. Mm-hmm. That's persistence. So he turned down $350,000, but they loved the script. So they came back to him and said, "Look, okay, we'll give you $35,000, a tenth, and a small portion of any profits that we make, you'll get that. And we'll let you be the star, and you'll also be the producer, and we'll give you $1 million." Well, $1 million was nothing. I mean, how could you put together a movie with $1 million? It cost a lot more than that just for the actors. So he didn't use any actors. He used his friends. He used his relatives. He took the money, got his dog back. His dog was in the movie. They used handheld cameras. They didn't have any of the big, filming cameras like a normal movie would have. And so he put the movie together himself. That is persistent. He came in under budget and on time, and said, "Okay, here it is." And they started showing it around Hollywood, and the places they showed it, it got some pretty good reviews.
Well, the fight you were referring to was Ali and Wepner. And I remember it being a guy from New Jersey. My grandfather was the boxing commissioner of Hudson County, New Jersey, which includes Bayonne, where Chuck Wepner was from. My neighbor behind me, okay, who's still alive, by the way, he's about 90 years old now. He was a Bayonne kid. He knew Chuck Wepner. Chuck was a liquor salesman, and he was what they call a club fighter. He would go in, he beat guys up in the club. He was a good fighter. He was, he's decent enough. Right. But Ali had looked for, basically, okay, let me knock out a white guy. I've knocked out all the black guys. Let me knock out the white guy now and get more to white audience looking at boxing, because boxing was going through its own troubles at that time.
Right.
So Stallone's timing was really good, because these guys have this fight. And I remember the fight. I was in about, 7th or 8th grade. And I remember the fight, and it was on, they showed it on Wide World of Sports, if you remember that, on Saturday afternoon. And but it was a nighttime fight. They had taped it. It was pre-recorded. So they showed it, and it had, I think, the largest amount of people to watch it than any singular sporting event at that time.
Wow.
Because there was so much going on. You had white America and black America, right? You had Ali and, skipping the Vietnam War. Some people liked him for that. Some people hated him for that, including, by the way, in black America, had their own opinion about the guy that like him or hate him. And then, of course, he had become a Muslim at the same time, right? He went from Cassius Clay. So all of that. And then on the other side, right, you see this guy who basically is a nobody. He's just a club fighter fighting the greatest fighter in the world, the world's most recognized human being.
Exactly.
But Stallone was obviously a fan of the sport, but he was smart enough to look at that and capitalize on that the way that he did. But the sacrifices that Sly Stallone himself made, can't even describe it. I mean, I can't even imagine what he did, but it shows something too, Dennis. Love your thoughts on this. Shows his belief in himself, that he knew he could pull this thing off.
That's right. Yeah, the underlying theme of the book is desire, faith, will, and action. And every story in the book, the heroine or the protagonist had those themes. And certainly Sylvester Stallone, he wanted to be an actor. He wasn't going to give the script away. If it was going to be successful, then he was not in it. So his desire and his will pulled him through that. He could have easily said, oh, yeah, $350,000. That's great. Give me the money. And gone and bought a car and had food and got his dog back. And, but that's not what he wanted. He knew what he wanted, that's the key. You've got to know what is it that you want to do. If you're ever going to be super successful, you got to know where you're going so that every day you can take steps in that direction. So, for me, I know what I want. I want this book to get out and help a lot of people. And I'm willing, this is my third podcast today. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, and this is supposed to be a holiday week. My staff's off, but I'm still working. So people will go the extra mile if they know what they want and they're willing to do whatever it takes to get there. That's what the book's about. That's what this story's about.
And the other thing about what Stallone did, and this is brilliant, and some people will remember this, some people you won't. And here's my suggestion on this. If you don't remember the movie, I mean, first time I saw it, I was in high school. So it's a while ago, 1970 something. And round 14, fight one, round 14. If you remember the scene, Apollo knocks him down. Stallone looks across, the Rocky character looks across at him. He's hurt, but he gets up. Happens again. Happens a third time. And the third time, the camera goes over to Apollo, the Apollo character, Carl Weathers. Goes over to Carl Weathers, and you see in his face, man, you're nuts. Stay down. I'm killing you. I may kill you. You may not walk out of the ring. And fighters have not walked out of the ring over the years. They have died in the ring or on the way to the hospital. And you could tell, you could read Apollo's face that he's thinking either this guy's nuts or he's something different. And that metaphor, okay, of going the distance, yeah, it applies to fighting, but boy, it applies to everything in life. Are you going to get off the mat and get up one last time, no matter what happens, whether it's cancer, whether it's bankruptcy, whether it's divorce, whether it's a relationship ending, maybe with a child, whatever it is, circumstantially, we've all had it. And do you get up or do you stay down? And so that metaphor that he built in there was so brilliant. I know David Goggins has used it to death, okay, in his speeches. I know I've used it to death in some of mine. I know other people that speak for a living where we've used it. I know people who don't speak for a living who just use it with their kids and say, hey, not how many times you get knocked down. You get knocked down 10 times, you get up 11. And Sly was smart enough to put that in there because it was him living in that bus station right? And being offered, and let's remember too, Dennis, right? $350,000. This is about 1974, 75. I don't know in today's dollars. What are we talking? 3.5 million at least?
Yeah,
Real money.
a lot of money. Yeah,
Real
probably.
money. For a broke guy in a bus station. So brilliant what he did. But let me ask you a couple of other things on this. You know, let's talk about the dog for a minute, because this is a nice story. He got $25 for the yeah. My notes say $25. $25 for Butkus.
Yes.
He named after another guy who was a real athlete, a guy named Dick Butkus. I'm sure he was named for the great number 51 of the Chicago Bears. And then he bought the dog back for $35,000. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, well, no, 15.
15.
They got 35,000
All right.
for the script, and they let him be the lead, and he spent 15 of it to buy his dog back.
Wow.
You know, sold it for 25 and bought it back. That's how much he loved the dog. And I understand. I understand that. You know, I love my dog like that. And you know, a lot of people do. So it's a touching story. The stories in this book all have one thing in common. They're cathartic. They make you, they touch you, they move you. And I had 100 stories to work from, and all of those had moved me. But when I read them the next time to see if they go in the book or not, if I didn't get a tear in my eye, the story didn't go in the book.
Wow.
So, and I've read these stories 1,000 times, and I still get a tear in my eye. That's how powerful these are, how much these people have overcome. The most dramatic part of this story to me is when the story filmed, the movie filmed for all the Hollywood executives. Everybody important in Hollywood was there, and Stallone took his seat. And during the movie, nobody flinched. They didn't laugh at the jokes. They didn't cringe at the fight scenes. They just sat there. And so when it was over, everybody got up and filed out and left Stallone sitting in the movie seat with a tear running down his eye and realizing, well, it's failed, and I turned down $350,000, and I got to go, you know, it's just not gonna work out for me. And then when he emerged coming down the steps and realized all of Hollywood, everybody that was anybody was standing down there waiting on him. And when they saw him, it erupted in applause and bounced off the walls. And he said, I know I'll never feel a feeling like that again. Now, Sylvester Stallone has felt a lot of feelings. He's had lots of successes. He's had, you know, lots of series that have worked for him. He's a superstar, you know. But that moment right there was the moment in his life that he'll never, ever forget. And I tried to make it so that when you read it in the book, you have the same or similar feeling.
You know, there's so much to who he is. But one of the things that comes to mind as we're talking is loyalty. Because I've watched some of his other movies, okay? And to your point, whether it was some of the movies that frankly didn't do well, you know, it was like the one where he was a police officer, that one didn't do so well. But then there's been the ones where, and I'm forgetting the name of them right now. I want to call it the Avengers ones. I think it is. But he's got a number of actors, including Dolph Lundgren, right, who he had play his Russian antagonist later on, right? He's had Randy Couture, a great UFC fighter. He's had a number, I don't remember everybody's names, but there's a number of guys that you see them where they're not big stars. They're not Sylvester Stallone. They probably all made a good living, but you know, they're not the Hollywood elite like he is. And he's had a tremendous loyalty, and going back to the original Rocky franchise with Burgess Meredith, with Carl Weathers, with Paulie, the guy who played Burt Young. That was Paulie's real name, I think, if I'm not mistaken. These are all guys he knew that were also struggling at the time. Even though Burgess Meredith at one time had been a big star, but he was, you know, he was an old man at that point. And you know, he took these guys basically as a team. And I love your thoughts on this as the author of this. that a loyalty to people that supports you when you're on the mat and you're having a hard time getting up,
Right.
and also how to build a team of people to go out there into the marketplace.
Well, one of the 7 secrets of success is forming great alliances. And what Rocky did in that movie franchise, he had formed alliances with these people on the very first movie that had helped him become successful. And he helped them, and they worked together to make things continually to be better. That's kind of how life works and how success works. The more successful people that you can form alliances with, the faster you get to success. The more people that have input in what you're doing and work with you, and you help them and they help you, you get so much more done so much quicker by having great alliances. And that's kind of what you're talking about right there. He formed those great alliances, and then they helped each other for years to come.
Yeah, and they still are. They're still doing stuff. Some of these guys. It's interesting because I was reading something about Vince Lombardi a couple months ago, and he referred to that as his Armageddon squad. If you were going into Armageddon, who do you want on your team? And he named some of the guys that he wanted on his team. Some that were famous that we know, and some that were anonymous people that he talked about. But kind of that same logic of build that core of people that trust each other, work well together, don't even necessarily always agree, but that they got you back.
I agree.
And he's been the master of that. So a couple other questions on this. So this franchise has now grossed over 1.4 billion with a B dollars. It still grosses. It's still, I don't know if you notice this or not, but Christmas Day, they always show the entire Rocky series on multiple channels. It's like you can watch, if you're home alone on Christmas, well, I guess you can watch Home Alone on Christmas Day too, but if you're home alone on Christmas Day and you're bored, you can watch Rocky 1 all the way through the very last Rocky. But I love this series. Obviously, I'm a pretty big fan of both Sylvester Stallone and as well as Rocky itself. But just amazing, $1.4 billion. And here's a guy very easily could have taken that 350 grand. We would not know his name. He'd be obscure. They probably would have made one movie. Maybe it would have been done well. Maybe it wouldn't have. I think it took a guy too, like him, physically like him, to put that movie together too. I can't picture just a regular Hollywood actor.
All right. Brian would not have been a good Rocky.
No, I wouldn't see Tatum O'Neal fighting a guy like Carl Weathers, who had played for the Cleveland Browns at one time. Yeah, you couldn't buy it, it was tough. But one of the terms that you use that I love is furious optimism. Describe that.
Burning desire and furious optimism. Yes. If you've read the book Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, all the way through, he says, if you want to be a success, there's this thing you have to have. And he never just says it's this. He says, as you read the book, you'll realize what it is. Okay. And so I probably read the book 10 times trying to figure out, well, what is it? What is it? And one day it finally came to me. I reread it and I thought, that's it. That's it. Having a burning desire. I'm always looking for how you market books, what makes books sell. And I was listening to a YouTube podcast or something. It was an interview with a person who worked with great authors. And the interviewer said, is there one thing that all great authors have in common? And his answer was, yes, there is. They all believe in their book. They all believe it's the best book that was ever written, and it would help a lot of people. They think if someone purchases this, they're going to be better off with it than if they didn't purchase it. So that's desire. That's part of the burning desire. And if you read Think and Grow Rich in the back of your mind, you think, here's what he's talking about. It's a burning desire. Then everything just falls in place, because all of those people in that Napoleon Hill describes in the book had a burning desire to succeed in whatever it was they were trying to do. So that's one of the secrets of success. You know, you get your mind right, and you have to decide, what is it? If you don't know where you're going, who knows where you're going to end up? I mean, really. So the very first thing in getting your mind right is deciding, what is it I really want to do, and I'm willing to give up everything and risk everything to do, and I'm really anxious to do that. If you don't have a burning desire, you won't do it. You won't say, I'm willing to risk everything, put everything I have on the table, and lose and get up and go again. But if you have the burning desire, like in the Lincoln story, or just like in the Disney especially, where you just get knocked down over and over and over, and you just get up, dust off your pants, and continue to go, then it's hard to stop someone like that. And knowing that at the beginning, if you get your mind right, seek wisdom, develop skills, make detailed plans, form great alliances, and then be persistent, you're unstoppable. You just can't be stopped. That's hard to put together. It's hard to get all that working for you. But if you'll read stories of super successful people, you'll see that every one of them went through those 7 stages, whether it's Henry Ford, Abraham Lincoln, well, you name it, anyone in the book, Edison, George Washington. I'm trying to think of some generals. Patton. I mean, what Patton's burning desire was, I want to lead an army. I want to overcome the world. And he really did want that. And he was willing to do whatever it took. And sometimes it took other people's lives, but he got to do that. He got to lead that army and win a major battle.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I've just finished watching 2 nights of a story, the history of Theodore Roosevelt. And Roosevelt, in his own right, in my opinion, he may have been our greatest president. And people challenge me with that from a number of different areas. But he was so far ahead. But forget his presidency. Go before his presidency to everything you just said. Small child, sickly child. His dad got him physically training, hitting a heavy bag when he was a little boy, doing push-ups, doing physical stuff to try to overcome some of the maladies that he had. Years later, there's a great picture, and I'd never seen this till the other night. He's about 5 or 6 years old when Lincoln gets assassinated. They're bringing the coffin of Lincoln through, I guess it was Fifth Avenue in New York, might have been Madison Avenue, wherever his family lived. They're actually bringing the coffin along the street in New York there before they were shipping him back to Illinois for burial. And here he is, this little boy standing at the window, and there's a picture of him looking at Lincoln. And, you know, did it even register what had happened and who that was? But didn't it? Maybe that was the thing where he said, I'm going to be a great man. I'm going to lead. And I probably won't be all that much popular either. Maybe I'll even get shot for my country, which he did. But the biggest example, and Sly Stallone did this, and everybody in your book did this. They led from the front. When he was when he was in the military, he was on the horseback in the front of the troops. Charge. And his chances of survival in that one particular battle was 90% that he would be killed. And even some of the guys said, hey, you know, you're a Roosevelt. You're one of the richest families in America. You know, maybe you should camp out in the back. Nope. Fellas, I didn't come here to camp out in the back. We're going in as a team.
Right.
And maybe we're all going home in coffins, but that's the way that he led. And I think every one of the people in your book is similar to that. I love the Mary Kay story, for example. I have a good friend who actually worked for Mary Kay directly for Mary Kay, not Mary Kay Cosmetics. He worked for Mary Kay that I can tell you about off camera sometime. Just remarkable stories he's told me about her. Talk about leading from the front. Your business partner and husband dies a couple of days before you start your business. And you go, we're going anyway. Got no choice, to your point, right? And there's so many stories like that. But Dennis, just to kind of wrap up today, okay, because some of our people maybe didn't hear our long form interview that we did a few weeks back, but you can, folks, on leavingnothingtochance.com or on my YouTube, which is YouTube/John Solleder. How can they get real impact?
Well, first of all, if you want it for free, you can go to realimpactbook.com. Look at what's there and check out the little section to help the children. If you want to donate a few dollars to give the book to people that are in disadvantaged areas and help kids with continuing education and child literacy, scroll down to the very bottom, click on the podcast attendee, and you get the book delivered to you automatically. I had someone on the podcast the other day where there were several people talking, and one of them said, oh, I just got it. I gave them that information, and they said, oh, here it is. So if you put your name in, your email address, it's automatically sent to you, and your name is not put on an email list. There is a link there that says, if you want to know when I have other books, click on that, and the only email you'll ever get is, I did another book. Do you want it? You want to know about it? Or if you don't click on that, you never get anything. You'll just get the ebook, and it's free. And why would I give it away for free? Well, first of all, I think it'll help. I think it'll change people's lives. And if you read it and you see the value, you'll say, oh, well, I'm going to get this and give it to my grandson, or give it to this person that's graduating from high school or college, or give it to an old person in a nursing home, because they'll enjoy these and they'll know these people. They'll enjoy these stories. I think giving it away is the best way to get the word out that this is a book you want on your shelf. I really believe that.
Absolutely. Thank you for doing that. And hey, we're going to be doing this now on a weekly basis. Okay. So when you see this very first interview, which you'll see sometime in early January, okay, we're going to do this for at least 4 weeks, maybe more. We've already scheduled some time. And I think, Dennis, if it's okay with you, let's switch to a woman next time. I'd love to do Mary Kay. Can we do Mary Kay?
That's a fun story. I love it.
It is. I never had the privilege of meeting her. I've met of the icons in network marketing. I knew Mark Hughes. I'm still friends with Larry Thompson, the two guys that built Herbalife. I knew Jim Rohn, who worked with them, coached those guys. I knew Jim like you did as well. And then never met the guys that started Amway, okay? And never met Mary Kay, but I've sat in her office, okay, right here in Dallas. And I know the story pretty well. And I never met Doc Shackley, but I met some of those 8 or 9 iconic people that really created the direct selling industry that exists here in 2025, but Mary Kay, I was a huge fan of her before. But if you ever had an opportunity, folks, Dennis and I both live in the Dallas area, so you know what I'm talking about, Dennis. But if you live in another part of the country and you come here for a convention or a visit with a family member, take the time to go through the Mary Kay Museum. And we'll talk about that a little bit more on when we get into the podcast. But just phenomenal. And when you see what this lady went through, just like Sly Stallone, she wasn't sleeping on, in a bus station, but she wasn't doing much better. And yet she started her business anyway. And today, very few iconic brands that can compete with the Mary Kay name, certainly around the world.
Exactly. I have several stories of Mary Kay, so be sure to tune into that podcast when we talk about her, because it'll be interesting.
I just hold on here. We'll talk for a couple minutes, and let me turn off the recording. Thank you all for listening today.
Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to check back weekly for more exciting episodes. And don't miss Ink and Insight every Wednesday, where we celebrate iconic authors and dive into their impactful works.